In November of 2025, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, gave a very surprising warning. He said that the United States might take military action against Nigeria, a country in West Africa. This was a very strong and unexpected threat. The main reason President Trump gave for this threat was the killing of Christians in Nigeria. He stated that Christians in Nigeria were facing a great danger and that their lives were at risk. President Trump warned that if the Nigerian government did not stop these killings, the U.S. would act. He even told the U.S. military to prepare for possible action. This strong warning started many important questions. Is the situation in Nigeria truly as simple as President Trump described? Are only Christians being killed, or are other people also suffering from violence? What are the real reasons for the fighting in Nigeria? It might not only be about religion. Things like land, money, and power can also cause problems. Another important question is about Nigeria's wealth. Does Nigeria have important resources like oil or special minerals that other powerful countries want? This could be a hidden reason for the U.S. interest. We also need to understand President Trump's way of doing things. Does he always follow through on his threats, or are they sometimes a way to start talks? His past actions and his supporters, especially religious groups, might help us understand his decisions. This story will look at all these difficult questions. It will explore the real events happening in Nigeria, the reasons behind President Trump's warning, and what this could mean for Nigeria, the United States, and the world. We will try to understand the many different sides of this complex situation. 2. The President's words. The problem started when President Donald Trump watched a TV news report. It was a Friday in November 2025, and he was traveling. The news story was about Nigeria and quickly made him very angry. Soon after, Donald Trump used his social media page to share his strong feelings. He said the United States would name Nigeria a country of particular concern. This is a special label for countries where religious freedom is not respected. Donald Trump stated that if Nigeria allowed Christians to be killed, the U.S. would stop all help. He also warned that U.S. forces might go into Nigeria using phrases like guns a-blazing to wipe out the Islamic terrorists he held responsible. He told the Pentagon, which his government now called the Department of War, to get ready. He wanted them to prepare for possible action. He said if the U.S. attacked, it would be swift, brutal, and effective. On his plane, a reporter asked if this meant soldiers on the ground or air attacks. Donald Trump replied, "Could be." He repeated that many Christians were dying in Nigeria and he would not let it happen. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth quickly responded on social media saying, "Yes, sir," and confirming the military was preparing for action. The Country of Particular Concern label was important. A law from 1998 created it for nations with very serious religious freedom problems. This label does not always bring punishment, but it can stop U.S. aid. Donald Trump had used this label for Nigeria in 2020 during his first time as president. Later, the next president removed it. Now, with Donald Trump back, he quickly put the label on Nigeria again. He said this showed his plan to help Christians everywhere. This label, however, was different from his military threats. The label highlighted a religious freedom issue, but the president's words threatened soldiers and bombs. It was a serious situation that grew from a news report to strong online warnings. 3. What is happening in Nigeria? Nigeria faces serious challenges with violence. Many people are suffering. It is true that many Christians have been killed in terrible attacks. One human rights group, Inter-Society, said that over 7,000 Christians died in the first 7 months of 2025 alone. They also reported that many churches have been burned and Christian communities forced to leave their homes. Groups like Boko Haram, ISWAP, and some Fulani herdsmen are often behind these acts. However, the situation is more complex than it seems. While Christians have been targeted, many Muslims have also been killed. In fact, some studies show that Muslims are the majority of victims in the country's violence. For example, Boko Haram has often attacked Muslim leaders and communities who do not agree with their ideas. 2 out of 3 civilian victims in some conflicts were Muslims. The problems in Nigeria are not only about religion. Many things cause the violence. Land disputes are a big reason, especially between farmers and herders who need water and grazing land. These conflicts often involve groups that might be seen as Christian farmers and Muslim herders. But the fight is usually about resources and money, not just religious beliefs. Governor Charles Soludo of Anambra State has said that criminals are responsible for killings, not all herdsmen. Other crimes also make the situation worse. People are kidnapped for money, and there is political violence. These problems, along with arguments over land and natural resources, add to the suffering across Nigeria. It is a mix of many issues, not just one simple cause. 4. Nigeria's riches. Nigeria is a country with many valuable natural resources. These resources are important for Nigeria's economy and for other countries around the world. One of Nigeria's great riches is its special minerals. These minerals are called rare earth elements. They are used to make many modern technologies that people use every day. For example, rare earth elements are in mobile phones, computers, electric cars, and even military equipment. Nigeria has large amounts of these rare earth elements. In fact, it is one of the top 5 countries in the world for these important minerals. It also holds much lithium, cobalt, and nickel. These are all critical for new technologies and green energy solutions worldwide. Many global powers want these minerals, including the United States. The United States wants to get more of these minerals from places like Africa. This is because China currently supplies most of the world's rare earth elements. The U.S. government wants to reduce this dependence and get more minerals from other partners. The Trump administration has clearly stated this goal. They want African minerals to go west, not east to China. Nigeria's rich supply of these minerals makes it a very important country for this strategic goal. Beyond minerals, Nigeria is also very rich in oil and gas. It is the biggest oil producer in Africa. Every day, Nigeria pumps out millions of barrels of crude oil. This oil is sold to countries around the world. Oil and gas exports bring a lot of money to Nigeria, making up nearly 70% of its national exports and about half of the government's budget. Nigeria also has huge amounts of natural gas, more than 210 trillion cubic feet. It plans to become an even bigger seller of gas to other nations soon. Because of its oil, gas, and special minerals, Nigeria is very important in the world. Its resources are key for the energy needs of many nations. They are also vital for the technology industry. Countries like the United States and China watch Nigeria closely because of these riches. The control or access to these resources can affect global power and business relationships. This makes Nigeria a country of great interest on the world stage, not just for its people, but for its valuable land and the wealth beneath it. 5. Trump's way of doing things. The president's actions often followed a clear pattern. Donald Trump's foreign policy showed that his strong words did not always lead to direct military action. Sometimes he made big threats, but no military step was taken. Other times he used military force after strong warnings. For example, during his first term, he ordered missile strikes against sites in Syria. However, he also spoke about keeping the United States out of long foreign conflicts. He seemed to prefer quick military actions that had clear victories and low risk for American soldiers. This made some observers wonder if a large military operation in Nigeria would fit his usual way of doing things, especially because Nigeria's problems are very complex and not easy to solve quickly. A big reason for President Trump's decisions often comes from his key supporters. Many evangelical Christians strongly support him. They believe it is very important to protect Christians around the world who face danger. People like Paula White Cain, a spiritual advisor to the president, have openly shown strong support for his warnings about Nigeria. Trump's promises to fight against harm to Christians have become a central part of his political message. This group of supporters significantly influences his foreign policy choices, particularly when it comes to issues of religious freedom. Some people think that President Trump's threats are a special way to start talks. This approach is sometimes called the art of the deal, a business tactic he has spoken about. With this idea, very strong language is used to grab attention and see how other countries or leaders will react. The main goal is often to get the other country to change its actions or to come to the table and negotiate. It is a way to show power and open a path for serious discussions rather than a firm promise of immediate war. A Nigerian advisor, Daniel Bwala, even suggested that people should understand Trump's unique way of communicating. He said, Nigeria should not take Trump's words too literally, but rather see them as a way to begin important discussions and achieve shared goals. So, President Trump's way of doing things is often a mix of using very strong statements, listening to the needs of his political base, and using threats as a powerful tool for negotiation. This complex approach helps him try to achieve his goals on the world stage. 6. How Nigeria answered. Nigeria's government responded to the strong words from U.S. President Donald Trump with a calm but very firm voice. They chose not to react with anger or to escalate the situation. Instead, they carefully explained their country's position and actions. This showed their wish to avoid making things worse between the two nations. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu spoke directly to the claims. He clearly stated that the idea of Nigeria not allowing religious freedom was untrue. He stressed that this negative picture did not show the true situation on the ground in Nigeria. President Tinubu confirmed that his government works hard every day to protect the freedom of religion and beliefs for everyone living in Nigeria. This means providing safety for Christians, Muslims, and people of all other faiths across the country. He made it clear that all citizens are important and receive the government's protection. Nigeria's leaders also told the world they were open to receiving help from other countries. They welcomed support from the United States, especially in fighting terrorism, but only if this help fully respected Nigeria's own land and its right to govern itself. Daniel Bwala, a trusted advisor to President Tinubu, stated that Nigeria would be happy for U.S. assistance in fighting bad groups like terrorists. He hoped that when President Trump and President Tinubu eventually spoke directly, they would find good, shared ways to work together. Both leaders, he noted, shared a common goal. However, Mr. Bwala also made Nigeria's limits very clear. He firmly stated that the United States could not send its military forces into Nigeria alone. Such an act would break important international laws that govern how countries treat each other. It would mean that the U.S. was not respecting Nigeria's right to govern its own land and its people. Every country has the right to decide what happens within its own borders. If a foreign army entered without an official invitation, it would go against these basic and well-established rules for all nations worldwide. An activist named Baba Adam, a Nigerian living in the U.S., also spoke about this issue. He described President Trump's threats as gunboat diplomacy. This term means when a powerful country tries to force a weaker country to do something by using military threats. Mr. Adams strongly stated that threatening to use soldiers against another country without its agreement is against international law. Specifically, he pointed out that it goes against the United Nations Charter, which protects every nation's independence and its borders from outside military interference. The Nigerian government, through its responses, seemed to believe that President Trump's very direct way of speaking might be a strategy. They saw it as a way to get serious talks started rather than a definite plan for military action. Nigeria hoped for a peaceful path where all countries respect each other's rights and work together on shared problems like violence and terrorism. The government's message was steady and clear. Nigeria is its own country, and it expects others to respect that. While open to friendly help, it will always protect its land and its people. 7. Big questions. Many people had big questions after President Donald Trump's warning. First, where did the president get his information? His strong words started after he saw a news report on TV. He quickly posted on social media about the killing of Christians in Nigeria. Reports from human rights groups did show many Christians had died, but President Trump sometimes used lower numbers than these reports. This made people wonder if he had all the facts or if he was seeing only part of the story. Then, was the threat of military action real, or was it just talk? President Trump has often used very strong language. Sometimes his threats have led to military action, like strikes in other countries. But other times, his strong words did not lead to action. Many people thought this threat was a way to make Nigeria listen, or to show how serious he was. It could be a way to negotiate, like in a business deal. However, the U.S. military did begin to prepare, which made the threat feel more real to some. What were the real reasons behind the warning? There were likely many reasons. One reason was a real concern for Christians in Nigeria. Many of President Trump's supporters, especially religious voters, care deeply about this. Another reason could be about Nigeria's natural resources. Nigeria has oil and gas, and also special minerals needed for things like phones and electric cars. The United States wants to make sure these important minerals are available to Western countries, not just to countries like China. So, the reasons could be about religion, but also about money and global power. Finally, how could this situation affect the relationship between the U.S. and Africa? The threat, even if it was just words, sent a message. It showed that the U.S. might try to use military force in Africa if it thinks there are problems. This could make African nations worried about their freedom to govern themselves. They might start to look for new friends, perhaps countries like Russia or China, who might seem less likely to interfere in their internal matters. The situation also highlighted a difficult problem: how to balance a country's right to manage its own affairs with the world's desire to help people who are suffering. 8. What we think now. This whole situation is very complex. We see real suffering in Nigeria, where many people, both Christians and Muslims, have lost their lives. Groups like Boko Haram and others cause much violence. But this violence is not only about religion. Other big problems like land disputes, money issues, and crime also make things worse. At the same time, world politics play a big part. Nigeria has many important things, like rare minerals that are used in phones and electric cars. It also has a lot of oil and natural gas. These resources make Nigeria very important to countries like the United States and China. So, when the U.S. President Donald Trump spoke about military action, it was not just about protecting Christians. It also touched on these bigger global interests. His words were strong, maybe to get attention or to start a talk, which is sometimes his way of doing things. He also has many religious supporters who care deeply about persecuted Christians around the world. Nigeria's leaders answered carefully. They said they are working to keep all people safe, no matter their religion. They welcomed help, but made it clear that no country could attack Nigeria without permission. This is because every country has the right to be independent and control its own land. An attack from outside would go against international laws that keep countries safe from each other. This leaves everyone with big questions. How can the world help people who are in danger without taking away a country's right to govern itself? What are the real reasons behind powerful nations' actions? Is it always to help, or are there other interests too? Both Nigeria and the United States face difficult choices. They must decide how to deal with problems at home and how to act on the world stage. What do you think is the best way for countries to help people in other nations without hurting their independence?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.